folks, welcome back to a slightly different video. Today we are going to look at the 10-year future of Thames. How have the past 10 years gone? How does it look now, 10 years into the future? And of course, if you're watching this series, you know what's going on with Thames, but you don't really know what's going on with the rest of world football. So let's take a look at it then and see what's gone on. And I thought there was no better place to start than the current England squad. With the World Cup just around the corner in 2018, how are we getting on in 2027 at the start of this season? Well, you can see a few players do remain. A lot of these names, of course, will be regens. The thing that stands out to me, though, is there are two players from Celtic in the England squad. Celtic, obviously, are they going through a bit of a purple patch? But Paul Lambert, manager, of course, former player of Celtic. I wonder if they've been winning the Aberdeen won it one year. I mean, no one saw that coming. There you are, Scottish fans. There's your shout out. Within the England section, which is a bit peculiar. You can see that Dele Alli still remains, as well as a few others. Marcus Rashford, Jordan Pickford, Josh Tymon's there as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold's on the bench, Joe Gomez. And a lot of these players, they're not at the familiar big four. Two from Manchester United, two from Liverpool. No players from Chelsea in there at all. Manchester City, no players from there either. Tottenham have got a few. Jadon Sancho, of course, you might remember, he's at Dortmund currently in real life and has now gone to Tottenham for quite a lot of money. He's doing rather well. Pretty good player on the game, it has to be said. And caps-wise, you can see then those two boys from Manchester United. And that's where we're going to go next. Manchester United, Dele Alli, as you can see, is there. And he's not the only one who's chilling out. You can see his vice-captain is Harry Kane. And that's right. If you're a Spurs fan right now, you might want to look away. The team for them is quite curious. If you do it by wages paid, you can see some of the big guns in their side now. Harry Kane is up there, of course. Marcus Rashford, David De Gea still at Manchester United as well. He's been there for a very long period of time, doing rather well too. As I mentioned, Harry Kane, Lindelof's there. Pogba remains. Moise Kean, the regen, he's there too. Dele Alli, Andrea Belotti, and Ousmane Dembele is there too. Is he a real person? No, Serbian 25-year-old, basically the new Nemanja Matic, is what I can gather from that. Quite tall, left-footed. Kurt Zouma is on that side, as well as N'Golo Kante. So it's quite clear that Manchester United have been doing quite a lot of business in the transfer windows as this save has sort of gone on. You can see 4 Premier League titles in recent times, then Manchester City and Chelsea showing out those honours. And that does bring us then to the Premier League table. This is how it looks in 2027. Of course, Thames a few years off this quite yet, but you can see there. Then Arsenal there, Blackburn, a little bit surprising, of course, start the game in League One, but back in the Premier League. Bristol City, a side that aren't ordinarily in the Premier League. Derby are there as well. You've got Middlesbrough back in the Premier League, and a lot of the other sides pretty familiar. Sunderland are probably one of the biggest shocks, actually. If you look at the season preview, you can see that Sunderland, the 7th best team in the division, finished 7th last year, got a European spot. And they've looked pretty good with it as well. We're going to look at transfers in a moment. You'll see some of the biggest deals that have gone by. But yeah, there's the Championship. There's the Premier League. There's the Championship. Bournemouth, Norwich and Wolves, the favourites to go up in that one. And they are a distance away from everybody else. If we bring up the league table in a slightly more organised format, you can see it there. Look, Villa, Barnsley, Bolton, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Cardiff, Crystal Palace, Hull, Ipswich, Leeds, Newcastle, Norwich, Forest. Oxford are in there, which is probably one of the more surprising ones. You've got Preston, QPR, Reading, Rotherham, Sheffield United and Wednesday together again. Swansea, Wolves and Yeovil. And of course, if you're fans of teams like Fulham or Birmingham, you're wondering where you are. Well, there you are. Into League One we go, and you can see some of the bigger names in there. Birmingham, as I mentioned, Fulham in there as well. And aside from that, it's pretty routine. Wigan there as well, of course, from a Premier League side, FA Cup winner. And you can see the winners in recent times. Forest, Brentford, Swindon, Bolton a couple of times as well. Birmingham, as mentioned, and Preston. They're all up there and doing the bits in League One. Now, League Two, it's where things get a little bit more interesting. There's a couple of teams in here that you will not have expected to be here, so let's go towards it now, shall we? And Billericay are up there. Second, I say second, that's just alphabetical, Ben. But Billericay have gone from sort of the lower reaches of Tier 7 all the way up through the Vanarama National. Were promoted last season in the division that we were in. Nelson Oliveira is manager. Some of the managerial appointments in this save are very funny. We should probably go through a few of those actually at some point. But you can see Billericay is one of them. The other big one for me is South Shields. Have gone from, again, below, the very low down, and have battled their way up. Did a very quick rise and then spent a long time in the Vanarama National. North, I think it was, got into the Vanarama National eventually and went up via the playoffs and are in there as well then. So you've got Billericay and South Shields representing. Pompey are still in League 2, so that's a bit of a shame. Actually back in League 2, they're not there at the moment. But again, that division looking pretty routine. Charlton have dropped down a little bit further. Probably a bit of a shame for fans of them. And Peterborough as well are struggling a little touch. But there's not too much to report there. Of course, the Vanarama National, as this division, and we'll see a lot more of this as the series continues with Thames. But yeah, below that, there's not much else. I mean, I'll show you if you're interested very quickly. They're the teams in there. Anyone at Galston, and local to me. If you live locally, that's baffling. And yeah, League South as well. Corinthian Casuals still in there amongst quite a few others. So then, let's get a crack on with some other little bits and pieces. Champions League winners, why not? I mean, who saw this coming? Current holders of the Champions League are Arsenal. PSG have had a bit of a monopoly on it since the start of the save. You can see it there. Look, City won it in year one, Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, City, Manchester United, Paris Saint-Germain, and then Arsenal in more recent times. Runners up twice in a row, but didn't quite get there. The final was at Old Trafford, and they still didn't win it. Finally, in Germany, they got their hands on the trophy for the first time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. First time. So yeah, Arsenal current Champions League holders. I guess we'll go on them, considering they probably deserve this. Quite a few regens in their ranks. She probably doesn't surprise you. Yardim is their manager. What's their actual managerial history? After Wenger then, wow, that's quite surprising, isn't it? 9 years with Leonardo Yardim, and there we are then. I mean, he's not won a great deal in that time, but does that matter at Arsenal if you go by recent seasons? I guess not. But the Champions League has gone their way, so not too bad at all. Just quickly, as we go through a few of these, check out the managers. We've got Prandelli there, in charge of, I think it was Blackburn, Jason Tyndall in charge of Bristol City. You can see it takes a little while to go through. Some of the bigger ones, Simeone. Dimitri Payet is Derby manager. I mean, baffling, isn't it? Jonas Olsen in charge of Everton, Eddie Howe at Huddersfield. A few Premier League managers have survived. Owen Coyle there, Roberto Mancini, of course. With the captains and vice captains, they tend to be more senior players. So you can see Shannon and Alexander Arnold still at Liverpool. City, Bernardo Silva still there, joined by Dybala and Mbappe. We'll check out the transfers in a minute. And Conte is their manager currently. Unai Emery is manager of Manchester United. I say Harry Kane and Lindelof are there. We'll go through the rest of them, shall we? Pearson in charge of Middlesbrough, Robbie Nilsson, Kike Sanchez Flores in charge of Stoke City, Patrick Vieira in charge of Sunderland, and they're doing very well, as we mentioned before. Eric Dyer is the vice-captain of Spurs. They've got that chap whose name is difficult to say, so I'm going to avoid it as their manager. Watford have got Lee Johnson, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is at West Bromwich Albion. West Ham manager regularly is Roberto Martinez, and Reece Oxford captain of them now at the age of 28. How time flies. Right, World Cup. Let's take a look. Okay, so the current World Cup winners. Yes, it happened last year. England won the World Cup, France before them, and Argentina before that. But yeah, England, as we looked through their squad before, are top of the tree in terms of world football. A bit ridiculous news. And in terms of the Euros as well, there's been a few of those that have gone by. France and Italy winning those respectively. Now, I did mention the transfers, so we're going to go on leading transfers for this one, and we'll see the big transfers. Is it still Kylian Mbappe? No, it's not. It was a few years ago now, but Pellegrini, is it Pellegrini? Is it Pellegrini? I think it might be Pellegrini, maybe something like that. Regardless, from Barcelona to Paris Saint-Germain, £196 million. I dare say it's gone quite well for them. Of course, they've won quite a few Champions Leagues in recent times. We saw that before. Bags in goals every single season, 33 that year, 37, 29, 33. So, yeah, he's doing all right. After he's moved to Barcelona, a massive transfer. And let me know in the comments, have you seen a bigger transfer? By all means, go on your leading transfers. Take a look, leave the comment. Have you seen any bigger ones? In regards to some of the other ones there, you can see there, PSG, by the way. How many have they bought? Liverpool have gone for one. They bought in Andre Silva. Chelsea are on there as well. And Titi's moved. There's quite a lot of real-life players. To say Manchester United went pretty big. Harry Kane, Dele Alli, both went to Manchester United from Tottenham Hotspur. Real Madrid, so with Mane from Liverpool. And interestingly, although we probably aren't going to be able to see this, and I doubt they're there now, but at one stage in this save, Real Madrid had Mane, Salah, and Firmino as their front three. Didn't play together all that often, but they were indeed a front three in that lineup. There's the Real Madrid team for anyone that's interested as well. Not too shabby, is it? Now, I'm sure people are going to say, can you check out La Liga, check out Serie A, check out the Bundesliga? How are they getting on? Well, interestingly, no. I could show you, but there wouldn't be that much different, I wouldn't imagine. If you go on the add and remove leagues, you can see I didn't load them at the start. We started very low down in the English divisions. As we progress into the Football League, I'm going to add the likes of Italy, France, Spain, Germany into this. But right now, I'm just sort of removing step by step. I've already done it once before, but some of the English leagues that we don't necessarily need anymore, or hopefully don't need anymore. I just thought you might be interested to see these are the leagues that I've loaded. There's not that many, but the game still is quite slow. So in terms of top players in the world, you can see PSG in the centre there are pretty dominant. They're the top side in the world, and they've got quite a lot of the best players as well. Theo Hernandez at PSG, I think he's potentially the only real-life player on that list, other than maybe Dembele and Mbappe. I think a lot of these other players are probably regens, if we take a look at a few of them. Okay, let's not get them in the FA Cup, please. I mean, let's get them in the FA Cup. That would actually be quite good. Donnarumma, just a little nod to him. Still at AC Milan, which I think we all quite like to see. Only 28, so that's horrifying, isn't it? Of course, on that page, there's a few other little bits and pieces on there. You can see the major nations at the moment, World Cup winners, major clubs, and you can see the list of those in front of you. So, lots has happened. The population hasn't grown. Don't know why it doesn't grow a Football Manager. There's predictions out there, guys. Put them in there. In terms of people like Footballer of the Year, again, PSG, a lot of regions are dominating this. Neymar won it not too long ago, actually. Lewandowski, Luis Suarez, Antoine Griezmann, who is still at Atletico Madrid at 36 years of age. I think he's retiring this year. But you can see the Ronaldo, Messi monopoly stopped pretty quickly in terms of it. You can click Ronaldo and Messi, and Ronaldo's a very poor assistant manager, and Messi there as well, just retired from the game completely after having quite the career, retired 4 years ago. And I mentioned that the sort of the more recent players, this guy here, Laurent Robert, amazingly called Laurent Robert. Of course, if you remember, Newcastle had a player with a similar name. It looks like a very, very good striker, doesn't he? I mean, he gets quite a few goals as well. Recently bought in from Lyon to Paris Saint-Germain. And you can see Mbappe doing pretty well too. At 28, at Manchester City, loving life, went for 108 million from Paris Saint-Germain. And has done a pretty good job. I don't know if he's their starting striker or not, but should we just take a quick look at the City side? Who remains in there? John Stones is still there, which is quite interesting. Bernardo Silva as well. Leroy Sané still in that squad. Ederson, the goalkeeper, still there too. So actually, the City team is relatively intact. Some of the other Premier League sides have been torn apart a little bit. If I just run it by sort of best 11 and go through, I guess you might be interested, so I'll do it as we talk. But you can see then, lots has changed in 10 years, as you might suspect. Thames, though, I've got a few bits and bobs to do. I'm trying my best in this episode right now to avoid showing you some potential transfers that may have happened, and hopefully you'll look forward to those next episode. This isn't an official Thames episode. This is very much a Thames 10 years in the future kind of idea, and you can see what else has happened in world football as you go along. Of course, pause any of these if you want to see the squad lineups for the Premier League sides. If your team isn't in the Premier League, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do this for all the Championship teams as well. I'm just doing it for those that are interested. I noticed there, by the way, Kevin De Bruyne is at Spurs, so I thought worth talking about. As we continue forward, then Watford, West Brom, West Ham United, and that should be that. Again, if you wanted to look at any of those, do by all means pause the video. There we are then. That is going to be 10 years in the future. If you want me to do another one of these, maybe in 15 years in the future, of course, we may well be in the mix of all this. You'll see what happens in the Championship, the Premier League, and all this as we hopefully get there with a little bit of time to be done. But yeah, it's been fun so far. The journey certainly isn't over. Lots of episodes still to go, and thank you for watching it. If you enjoyed this sort of video, do drop a like. If you want to see some more, subscribe to the channel. Thames, 10 years in the future. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 PM for more. We love with care. Goodbye.